The light zone is for immediate loading and unloading of passengers only. No parking. The light zone is for immediate loading and unloading of passengers only.
What's up, guys? By request, doing another 767 video, and I'm going to turn this one into a tutorial and do a step-by-step and walk you through what exactly I'm doing. So number one, in the cockpit, go into our little iPad ground operations. You can see I've got the stairs, chalk set, ground power unit, and the fuel truck is ready. Those are what you're going to need to load the airplane first. And click over to airplane, and we're going to open up all of the cargo ports for loading. Next, go into overhead panel. Hard to see, but the first thing we're going to do is open the battery cover, battery on, switch to auto. So now we've got APU gen on the left and external power, which you can see is available because the ground power unit is connected, so we're going to turn that on. Bus ties, utility bus, and the left gen and the right gen. This is engine electrical generation, which once we get the engines powered up, those will provide power, so we're going to go ahead and turn this on now even though the engines are off. Tail logo light and our position wing lights. Cabin lights, and we'll turn the dome lights on and get a little bit of light in here. Next, hydraulic pressure. At this point, the first officer would be walking around the airplane looking for leaks, so we'll make sure those are on. And that's basically all we need to do pre-flight. We can go ahead while we're here and arm the emergency lights, and we'll turn on the no smoking and the seatbelt auto. Next, this is the ADIR system, which is basically the GPS system that the plane uses for navigation, positional information. These need to be switched to nav. And eventually you see a little number up here, which will show you how long it's going to take for them to align via GPS. But in order for that to work, we need to go to the FMS. You can see my nav data is out of date, which we'll get to later. First thing we need to do, pause init, position, initialization. We're on the cargo ramp in St. Louis, so our reference airport is going to be KSTL. Oop, clear. KSTL. Enter here. Then copy this onto your scratch pad by clicking this left or the right 2 key, and then we need to enter this into this position. And that's it. Now the ADIR system, the GPS will align on this coordinate. Next thing I'm going to do is I need to get the weather, the ATIS. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this in for Atlanta, which I know is 119.650. So once we get close, we'll be able to get the ATIS for Atlanta, and St. Louis is going to be 125.025. Oop.
Lambert St. Louis INTL information X-ray. 1100 Zulu weather. Wind 250 at 8, visibility more than 10. Sky conditions 25,000 broken, temperature 16, dew point 4. Altimeter 2969. Arriving runways 30 left, 30 right, 2924, departing runways 30 left, 30 right, 2924. Advise on initial contact you have X-ray.
Alright, so one altimeter is going to be 2969. Export that first officer
Lambert
side.
St. Louis INTL information X-ray. 1100 Zulu weather. Wind 250 at 8, visibility more than 10. Sky conditions 25,000 broken, temperature 16, dew point 4. Altimeter 2969.
So a little bit of wind
Lambert St. Louis INTL
from 250, and our departing runway, considering our location, is going to be 30 right, which we can use for our flight plan. Also looking at we're going to Atlanta. The METAR in Atlanta is saying winds from 310 at 3 knots. So we'll probably be landing west. So 2726. So I'm going ahead and loading up a flight plan on simbrief.com. So I'm assuming we're landing to the west in Atlanta, and the runways nearest the cargo terminal there are going to be 26 left and 26 right. 26 left is longer, so I'm going to plan on that. 26 left, and we're going to depart St. Louis via 30 right. Alright, got a flight plan loaded here. So the next thing that we're going to do, back to our iPad, and we're going to do the initial load for the airplane. And what we need to do is establish that the zero fuel weight here and what is on the flight plan are the same. So our flight plan is saying we need a zero fuel weight of 291,700 pounds. So I'll do 7 pallets. And we're going to need, let's try 25,000. 20,000. Oops. Let's make this just perfect. 20,700. And that's almost spot on. Total block fuel today is going to be 29,500 pounds. All the ground stuff is in place to go ahead and load, so we're going to optimize the center of gravity and load. And while that's doing its thing, we can start with the initial nav programming and FMC. Start by clicking the route button. We've already got St. Louis copied in here, so that's our origin. We are going to Atlanta, which is, the ICAO is KATL. Flight number, we're doing what? Amazon, so AZN. And flight, tail number is 313, so look at that. Next, our departure. So we picked the departure side next to St. Louis. And our departure is going to be the Druce 3. And we're leaving 30 right. Our transition is going to be BNA, which is Nashville. That's done. So once your initial departure is input, back to route, then we're going to go to the next page, and we're going to put in the rest of the waypoints by hand. So B&A is already in there, so the next waypoint after B&A. The via side is for the airway. We're not doing airways for these, we're just going direct. So all we need to do is put in the nav location. So the next one after B&A is November Echo Whiskey Bravo Bravo. So if you had an airway like J45, you would put that in the via side, and then click the other side for the nav name. After noob, we're going direct to I have India Hotel Alpha Victor Echo. So we're filled on this page. Let's go to the next. After I have is King. Kilo November Golf Golf Golf. So this is basically it for the routing, and then next we're going to do arrivals. So back to the departure arrival page. Atlanta. Our arrival is going to be the Drum 1 here. Via King, that was our last position. And I'm looking for the ILS approach to 26 left. ILS 26 left, there we go. Not going to put a transition in there, that will be fine. Back to the route, and we need to activate and execute. Now to check that there's no mistakes here, I want to look at the PFD down here. I'm going to switch this to the plan. Expand the range a little bit. So we can actually click legs, and we can step through the flight plan to make sure that there's no issues. And I'm looking for discontinuities. Anything that's broken, we can fix. We'll zoom in a little bit here. So, okay, wait. You have a discontinuity. So all you need to do is copy this onto the scratch pad by clicking next to the name. So you see we got a copy there, and just click next to this in the discontinuity and execute, and that will connect plan there. So you can see now this is a downwind approach. Oops. We have a discontinuity here. Again, copy, paste, execute. So we've got vectors here, which I don't mind. I might leave that, which means that we'll manually have to control the airplane between Kiwi and marked. Actually, because this is further away, further downwind, I'm just going to go ahead and do a direct to. The plane will be able to turn automatically to intercept marked, so we won't have to do anything with vectors. So next page, I'm going to click delete the vectors, and then just copy marked into this empty position. Execute. So the plane can turn, we'll have plenty of time to turn around. Step, missed approach, and then this north vector goes to the holding position if you have a missed approach. There, Troy's. So that looks good to me. The noise has stopped, which means the plane is finished loading. So we can go ahead and do our performance stuff. So the first thing, if you just click next to the 0 fuel weight, it'll put that in, 291.7, which is correct. Going back to our flight plan. Which add-ons do I use? I have FS Enhancer, and that's pretty much it. I use the stock weather and real-world weather conditions, but other than that, FS Enhancer is the only thing that I use for just lighting. So fuel plan reserves for the flight are going to be 13 tons. Cruise altitude is going to be flight level 350 or 35,000 feet. And our cost index, not good, 25. Cost index is basically how much fuel you're burning. So the smaller the number, the less fuel you're going to burn, which means you're going to take longer to get there. So if I wanted to, I could boost that, but I don't want to burn extra fuel that I've already allotted. Takeoff stuff, pretty heavy, almost 300,000 pounds. So we're going to do flaps 15. Thrusts, this is to derate thrust output. So normally what you would do, we've got a 9,000 foot runway, so I'm going to derate, which basically means we put temperature is 35. It basically tells the engine to give you thrust that you would have at 35 degrees Celsius. It saves wear and tear on the engine. Click center of gravity, 20%. So our trim for takeoff needs to be 3.9, which we're going to put in here. Here's our stabilizer trim. Needs to be in the green for takeoff, which we are, but I need 3.9. Oh, Wujal, also for add-ons, plugins to have. Fly with Lua you need for FS Enhancer. Squawk Box for VATSIM, which is basically a live air traffic controller app. And Better Pushback is the best. It's a free, which I'll show you now, pushback software. So pre-plan. That's exactly right. I want to go there. So you basically just put here, enter.
Round to cockpit, plan acknowledged. Call me through the menu when you are ready.
And when you're ready, they'll put you back to the spot that you have planned. Back to the planning here. Before we do the V speeds, I'm going to go to the next page and get our wind one more time.
Lambert St. Louis INTL information X-ray. 1100 Zulu weather. Wind 250 at 8. Visibility more than 10.
Winds for takeoff 250, 8 knots, and reference outside temperature is 16 degrees. Alright. Back. So we click V speeds on. And to put them into the computer, we'll just click next to these. V1 is the maximum takeoff speed. Beyond this speed, you must take off. If you have an engine failure after 134 knots, you have to continue to take off. Anything before this, you would reject takeoff, and the plane, you could stop the plane. VR is the rotation speed. You gotta pull back on the yoke, take off, and 147 V2 is the speed at which you can climb safely with one engine. So, on the MCP, the autopilot panel, 147 V2 is already put in the computer. That's good. The next thing that I would do, departure heading would be the runway heading, which is 303. And then you'd put your initial altitude cleared by air traffic control here, but we're not doing air traffic control today, or VATSIM, so I'm just going to go ahead and put our cruise altitude, which is 350, I think. Alright. Yes, 350. Also, we're using GPS navigation today, but I'm going to go ahead and put the VOR radio tuner to auto. Cycle the flight directors on. Arm the auto throttle. And arm LNAV, lateral navigation, which is following our waypoints, and vertical navigation, which is going to follow the up and down track set by the FMC. So we are complete here. Back to the route page here. Route copy, complete. And I'm going to do the same thing on the first officer's computer. Route Copy. For takeoff, I'm going to put this on the performance page so I can see the VREF speeds. And then I'll switch this one to legs for the flight. Because this shows us speed restrictions and altitude. The plane is loaded and the navigation computer is set, so we can start preparing for takeoff. So I'm going to go ahead and close all the other ports except for the front door and remove all of the stuff except for the GPU. Back to the overhead panel. Just going through what everything does: the ADIR system, hydraulics, electrical, APU controls. These are light controls for the glare shield and the cockpit instruments. External lights. Here is fuel. So you can see left tank, center tank, and right tank. So we're going to go ahead and turn the fuel pumps on, left and right. We do not have any fuel in the center tank, so we can leave the center tank off. The crossfeed is to make sure that the tanks are balanced. They're balanced right now, so we don't need the crossfeed on. Anti-ice, just cargo heat, engine start controls. We can turn the window heat on now. Landing altitude. Let's see, set takeoff altitude is at 570 feet. And switch to auto for pressurization. Equipment cooling stays on auto. Internal lights as well. You can dim and bright. And this is basically the aircon controls. So first, I'm going to fire up the APU. Start. And we can turn on the APU bleed. If we go to our status page, you see the EGT for the APU is rising as well as the RPM. And you should be able to hear it. If we go to the APU portion, see the APU exhaust is open. You can hear the APU spooling up now. Yeah, sounds good. So now RPM is at 100%, and the APU should be available, which it is. So this yellow light means it's available, so we're going to turn it on. So we've got APU power on, the APU bleed is on. We can disconnect the external power, turn it off. Go back to the iPad, disconnect the GPU, and then you can see the GPU is gone. Let's set the air conditioning for flight. These we're going to switch to auto. These are basically the internal air temperature settings. Trim air and recirc fans on. The auto now, you can, once you turn the packs on, you can hear the air conditioning come on. Isolation valves. And there's the air conditioning. We're going to leave the engine bleeds off until the engines are started. So just quickly, yaw dampers we can turn on. Continuous electricity to the engines. We're good here. Power is good. Lights are set. Cargo heat we can turn on now. Emergency lights are armed. Fuel pumps are on. Fuel's good. We don't need anti-ice right now because the outside temperature is 17 degrees. Window heat, good. Auto, lights, and we are basically set for departure. Normally you get a squawk code from ATC before departing. I'm just going to go and put a random code in here, 4702. Go ahead and close the door. And remove the chocks and the stairs. So we're on airplane power and we're fully ready for departure. So turn on the red beacon light. That would let the ground crew know that you're ready to go. Better pushback. Start our pushback.
Ground to cockpit. Tow is driving up. Okay, all doors and hatches are closed, ready to connect. So connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
Parking brake is off.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
Alright, to start the engines, first we're going to turn the packs off to get the maximum pressure. We're going to start with engine number 2, which is already selected. And to get the process started, we're going to flip this switch to ground. Back down to the display here, watching the N2. Once N2% reaches 15, we're going to introduce fuel by flipping this to the run position. Here we go. See fuel flow, 2.9. N2 is coming up as well as EGT and N1. So this is an auto, we can flip it back to continuous. The screen's flickered, which means that now the right engine is producing electrical power for the plane. So we're good on engine number 2. We'll start with engine number 1. Ground. Same thing, 15% N2. Introduce fuel. Switch to continuous. Put this on both.
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
Very good, bud.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
Screen's flickered, which means now we've got electrical power from both engines. So we can turn off the APU. APU off. Switch the switch to off. Now we're going to close the APU bleed. Turn on our engine bleeds. Packs to auto. And turn the left and right isolation switch off. We're going to leave the center switch on for the entire flight. And we can go ahead and disconnect.
TOW is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal will be on the right. We'll see you next time and have a great flight.
Thanks, John. There is hand signal and the bypass pin. So we're basically good. One more check. Good here. Good. 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 Everything on the overhead panel looks set right now. Just to make sure I'm not missing anything, I'm going to do some checklists here. Before taxi, engine ice, we do not need, packs are already set. So now I'm going to check the status and flight controls. Full right, full left, full forward, full backward, left rudder, and right rudder. We are good. Set the flaps for 15. Set for taxi, transponder to alt on, just for air traffic controller to identify you. So we're basically good. Taxi lights on. Turn our wing, and the logo light is already on. So we're good at taxi. With the Boeings, before you taxi, release the parking brake. I push the throttle almost to full power and then bring it back down. If there's an issue with takeoff configuration, you'll hear a warning and a red light will flash that says takeoff config. We didn't get a warning and no light flash, which means that we are set for takeoff. Looking down at our MFD here, we can see VNAV and LNAV are armed. We've got our V speeds programmed in, as well as the IAS Mach speed for V2 is also armed and ready. So we're pretty much good to go. And we are going to runway 30, which should be this one directly ahead of us. 30 right, yep. little slow here. You need to cross over the runway and then go left to get down to the end here. FMC message is telling us insufficient fuel, which is not true. We'll do a fuel check once we get in the air. We should be good. Go ahead and flip the display back to map, and I'm going to make the range to about 40 nautical miles on this side and 80 on this side. And I'm going to turn on terrain and weather on our side. Weather radar. Stop at the hold short line for final takeoff check. Parking brake. Taxi lights are on, white. Strobe light on, transponder set to TARA. Auto brake set to rejected takeoff, RTO. Flaps are set 15, and the wing light is on already. And logo. Taxi lights off. Landing lights and nose gear can come on. No cast messages except for parking brake, so we are set for takeoff. Brake off. Reset our ET timer here. rolling start. Go up to 40%. N1. Make sure everything's stabilized. Ready. Press the throttle button for our takeoff power. Forward pressure on the control stick until 80 knots. Using the rudders to maintain center line. 80 knots.
Don't sink.
Positive rate, so you can come up. Now we're following the flight directors, making sure that our little directional arrow is following our pink flight director. Gear can come off. Track the slats, so we're flying. Start the left turn. Turn off the nose gear light. Autopilot and LNAV and VNAV are going to take over here. We can enjoy the view for a bit. programmed climb rate is going to be 289. It's saying insufficient fuel, which should not be true. We'll check in just a second. Which we can check. So our next waypoint is Barra. And looking at our flight plan, it's telling me at Barra we need to have outside. Once that gets close to 0, we'll turn the wing and engine antennas on. Feet is the transition altitude for the United States, which means ahead and start preparing for landing. First thing, we get the ILS frequency programmed in our nav radio. So we go to our menu, index, and approach. So ILS for 26 left is 108.7. Nav computer's down here, so 108.7, and the approach course is 275. So that would be like a hard localizer when we get close. And set the minimums for 26 left. 26 left. For a Class C aircraft, the minimums are 284. Just round up to 290. And 86 knot crosswind. Yes, Feral Aviation. I just upload all these streams to YouTube and I edit them or anything. I think Twitch only keeps the videos here for 2 weeks. But the ones on YouTube will be there forever. Do another fuel check now that we're at the top of climb. The next waypoint is Denny. And I expect to have Denny 20.9. 21.1. Pretty close. Pretty close. Yeah. It's like a famous song called Shipping Up to Boston. Who's that by? Boston. Dropkick Murphys. There you go, shipping your mom up to Boston. mean, eventually I'll probably get a PayPal link or a donation thing set up, but I mean, only 8 followers, and you know, flight simming is such a nerdy, specific hobby that just seems so far-fetched to